Petrarch just published a new dev blog talking about the next update called Into the Maelstrom, which is going to address three of the game's biggest problems, that being the mission board, the crafting system, and resource sharing. Now, for 2 out of 3 of those problems, the community did not get what it wanted, but even then, the changes are positive, and let's have a look at what Petrarch is planning to do. So, first of all, the mission board. We're getting a new type of mission called the Maelstrom missions, which are going to have their own slot on the mission board and are going to grant higher rewards in terms of XP and ducats. The way I understand it, it's not that much different from a normal mission, except they're going to have a new, new conditions with new modifiers merging with the old ones. I don't know if it's still going to be the map has 2 modifiers or more, like they list, an example of a bunch of modifiers, and I don't know if the example they're giving is like, is this all the modifiers that are active, like more specialists, more dogs, more mutants, and faster cooldowns? Like, is that the whole thing? In which case, that could be interesting, but of course there's the problem of not being able to choose your modifiers. So, sometimes you might get a Maelstrom mission that's fun, and sometimes you might get something trash, and you have no control over it. So, whatever. I don't really care much about them. The big change, the big change, is these Auric level operations. This is a separate mission board that is only accessible after you reach level 30, which is going to guarantee that no low intensity modifier can appear on it. It can get its own Maelstrom missions, and it also gets unique condition for Maelstrom missions that you can't get outside of the Auric operations. So this kind of sounds like what people were asking for, right? Oh, we need the high shock map up at all times, and the screenshot here, it shows like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 7 of the normal missions have high shock up. This is potentially very good if this board isn't affected by the global conditions, so it guarantees like the actually difficult modifiers. So no lights out, no ventilation purge, no hunting grounds or whatever, just pretty much, high shock. Also, please no elite resistance. Elite resistance is also really bad and makes the game way too easy. Please rework elite resistance, by the way. And if they're not affected by global conditions, that means we have another chance at spawning high shock, which is fantastic, especially when used in conjunction with ManyMoreTry, which lets us save a mission for up to 24 hours after it has spawned on the mission board, which is kind of the way we play the game on our Discord and on stream. So we're not, beholden to what's on the mission board. Speaking of that mod, the mod maker said something about the mod page about how Petrarch had intended to make the missions be active for a shorter period of time. So right now it's 24 hours, and supposedly there were plans from Petrarch to make that last, not as long. There is no mention of that anywhere in the announcement, so this may change. But for now, we can probably still use ManyMoreTry the way we do now, if nothing changes. Which, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. That's great. So this is a good change. I just hope we won't be, seeing any dogs or lights out in there. They're gonna be adding quick play bonuses, just like in Vermintide 2, which I also don't really care about because quick playing forces you to play what's on the board, which isn't exactly great. If there's no high shock, why bother quick play? And if there's both like a high shock and a high dogs on the map, then why take the risk, right? Why take the chance? You just play what's fun. You play what you want to play. But very cute. Whatever. I don't really care. This is a big one. You are now going to be able to choose which servers you will use to matchmake with, which is very good for people who want to play with for groups of players that are located in like different continents. So for instance, we've had Dorak. Dorak. Dorak lives in NA Central or NA West, whatever. just not NA East. And we live in Europe. So when we play with him, before it was kind of a coin toss, like a gamble to of whether or not we were gonna get, you know, a European server or an NA Central server, which no one was happy with. The ideal solution would have been to pick NA East, so everyone gets like around, you know, 100, 120 ping or so. But with the way it was before, you know, a part of the group would be playing with good ping, and part of the group would be playing with like absolutely horrible ping, like 200, 220 or so, which wasn't great. So this is cool. I like this change. Thank you, Fatrag. They also say they're going to change the dynamic system of the mission board, which I think is like how it, you know, decides like which type of mission is played on the board. I don't really understand the word they refer to it. Like I don't know which part is like the dynamic system and which part is the event system. But like you may have noticed that, you know, during like for instance the week right now, it says it's like hunting grounds, but you can still roll some high shock. And I'm guessing that that has to do with like the dynamic system. But then for the weekend, you'll get like an event, I guess, which is like when it says lights out, and then you're gonna have nothing but lights out when like the event system is like active and is overriding the dynamic system. So basically, they now said that they're now saying that it refreshes like every 10 minutes, which I don't like. Are the missions gonna be on the board for only 10 minutes? I don't really know. This isn't like a good or bad thing, because if it's like, if the map is generating high shocks, well then good, I can slurp them, I can save them with ManyMoreTry. But then if in 10 minutes it's gonna start rolling dogs, well then that's not good. And then the opposite is true, like we're no longer gonna be stuck with like a whole week of single modifiers, or like a whole weekend of lights out, which is that's good. But so I don't know, remains to be seen like what it's like in action, right? It's very hard to tell just from reading this what the experience is gonna be actually playing the game and engaging with the mission board. But I think the one big consequence is that there's not gonna be like the entire board is lights out, or like the entire board is dogs, and it's just like that for a really long period of time, which is a positive change. They're also saying that we're gonna get less low intensity on, you know, higher difficulties, and less high intensity on lower difficulties, which is like whatever. Good to see less low intensity, but if it's dogs, I don't care if it's high or low intensity. I just don't want to play it. So yeah. So overall, closing thoughts on the map thing. I just wish we could pick a map, a difficulty, and modifiers, and it's very disappointing that we still don't have that option available. But the changes proposed here sound good. The Auric level mission board sounds good. It's more opportunities to save high shocks. Basically, as long as I can keep using the mod ManyMoreTry, I'm happy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, I have a video on my channel called like how to choose your mission almost in DARKTIDE, that shows you how the mod works. It might be updated actually. Now the mod is like has been updated a bunch and is much easier to use and a lot better. Okay, so on to the next big topic, and probably the most disappointing one, which is crafting. Fatshark has now changed re-rolling perks and blessings. So first of all, good change, finally. We no longer have to re-roll the thing we want. We can just select the perk. So thank you, Fatshark. It only took you 8 months, but you finally did it. Congrats. Thanks. Huge. Big change. a lot less time is gonna get wasted by this, even with the re-roll into rarity mod. So that's good. That's really good. Very nice. And the big change, the really big change, that's not that huge, is that now you can modify 2 different aspects of your weapons. So you can now reroll either both blessings, either both perks, or 1 perk and 1 blessing. So what does this mean? What is this change? Well, it's not as big as it may seem for weapons. At first, like the way it sounds. So right now, you know, you can reroll 1 perk and then the other one is locked, and you can reroll 1 blessing and then the other one is locked. That's not gonna change. You can't like remove the locks or whatever, which is, you know, yeah. But now, if you've got 2 perks that are perfect, you've got both perks you want, your weapon is saved. It's like not bricked, because then no matter what blessings you get, you can reroll both blessings. And the opposite is true. If you get both blessings that you want, well then you can reroll both perks. which still means that you need to it still means that you need to roll, you know, either one perk that you wanted and one blessing that you wanted, or both perks that you wanted, or both blessings that you wanted to get the weapon you want, which is not good. This, you know, this isn't at all what the player base wanted. And what the player base wanted, it was extremely simple. It was removing the locks. It is going to be a big change for Curios though, because now you can reroll 2 perks out of 3. So getting the perfect Curio is going to be super easy now compared to before. I can't overstate how big of a change this is for Curios. Curios were a system that like I didn't like engage with. I have over 1,200 hours, and I don't engage with Curios, like straight up. I haven't touched my Curios in hundreds of hours because it is such a horrible grind. You know, basically gambling on every upgrade that you're not gonna break it. So this is gonna make it super easy. So great, this is a good change. But the problem is, that's not what we wanted. What we wanted was getting rid of locks. And the way they talk about it is like frankly revolting. We are aware that the changes mentioned above do not give unrestricted freedom to all aspects of an item. To do so would have a big impact on item acquisition in Darktide, and we want to explore different paths further down the line. Yes, Fat Shark. Having unrestricted freedom, which is what the player base requested, would indeed have a big impact on item acquisition in Darktide. It would have a positive one. We would finally get to make the weapons we want, to have fun, and we'd finally get to engage with the systems you've created. Freely. But apparently, Fat Shark has decided that this one's not the way forward, and they're still thinking. They want to explore different paths. Which, you know, yeah, maybe just keep thinking for a few months before finally giving us what we wanted. Or, you know, make red weapons that are gonna be rollable or whatever. Which, yeah, I don't know. I'm not super happy about that. But the third thing, this is actually something that the player base wanted and that we're finally getting. We are finally getting account-bound currencies as opposed to be character-bound currencies, which is fantastic. I love the way they talk about this kind of stuff like it was like a difficult decision to make. After careful consideration and review of how these systems are working and what value that you, the player, receive out of them, we decided to opt for moving everything to a single unified account wallet. Well, you sure considered carefully for 8 months before finally giving us what we wanted from the start. What was in Vermintide 2. One thing that we still don't have but we need is that weapons still aren't shared. So let's say, for instance, you want to farm a combat axe. You're going to have to farm that on 3 characters. Same for Curios, you're going to have to farm that on 4 characters. Which sucks. Like, come on, Fat Shark. Dude. Like, at least Curios were shared in Vermintide 2. And in Vermintide you had the excuse of like, oh yes, but the Dwarven handgun is not the same as the Empire handgun. It's like, okay, whatever, fine, who cares? But in Darktide, the weapons are the same. An infantry autogun, whichever mark you may choose, is the same on Psyker, Veteran, and Zealot. So why do you have to grind for it 3 times? It's ridiculous. But hey, maybe after careful consideration and review of how it's working and what value we're getting out of it, maybe in 8 months, maybe in 8 more months we'll get. But this is a good change. So yeah. And the patch, you know, they're saying is gonna release mid-August. Yeah. Overall, it's a good patch. It's probably the biggest patch the game has ever gotten. I'm glad ManyMoreTry isn't getting gutted, that they haven't announced anything about it yet, but, you know, remains to be seen, fingers crossed. The Auric mission board seems potentially good. If it can escape dogs and darkness, you know, that's great, fantastic. Maelstrom missions, I don't feel any particular way about them. I'd have to see how they actually play before commenting, because I don't really understand like how many modifiers can be glued to one another to make one, and of course we don't get to choose them, which is, you know, a problem. We want to choose our maps, we want to choose our difficulties, we want to choose our modifiers, and we didn't get that, which is unfortunate. Changes to crafting are not nearly enough. Remove the locks completely, remove the locks completely, remove the locks completely. They don't add anything to the game. They At best, you know, they just artificially extend the playtime beyond any reason, beyond anything that's reasonable, for even a chance at like engaging with the weapons this game has to offer. But at least for couriers now you can play with them. But for weapons, it really doesn't change that much, which is bad, which is not good. And I'm glad for count-bound wallets, but you know, I would love a count-bound weapons as well. And a few more things that they did not touch on, which I really would like them to touch on at some point. First of all is the horrible hit reg and other server-side problems. You know, we need to make this sort of stuff client-side. It is unacceptable in a game like this to have as many ghost hits as we have. I have never played a game with a hit reg as bad as Darktide. It is unbelievable. The constant desyncing from stuff like snipers as well. The micro rubber banding that happens, which will sometimes leads you to like shoot, like you fire your gun and then you unfire it and the game just like refunds your shot. Problems like dogs being undodgeable, sometimes being unpushable still. Mutants being completely broken, where now they just kind of poop their pants for 10 minutes going rah, rah, rah. Like they haven't addressed that. When before we had a patch that fixed dogs and fixed mutants and made them very good and feel very nice. With the only problem with the patch was that you could dodge through a mutant, which was a bit silly. But instead of just fixing that, they just nuked the game. They not only rolled back the patch, so now dogs are a nightmare again, but they made mutants worse because now they're completely broken. And not only will they just poop their pants for 10 minutes and fail to actually charge anyone, they can also cancel their charge. So they'll be charging at you, you dodge, the mutant stops, goes rah, and immediately recharges, effectively nullifying your dodge. And those are big problems. Those are big problems. Like the whole server side shit where you can't throw out your ultimate, you can't, your hits don't register properly, your dodges will get cancelled, you'll be shot by a sniper out of your dodge. There's a lot wrong that needs addressing that they haven't talked about, which is a bit disappointing. But overall, it's finally some good news. I'm looking forward to the patch. I really hope these Auric missions are good, and I really hope we're still gonna get to use ManyMoreTry. Alright, see ya.